These are the PACE 2019 NSC bonuses for round 1 of that tournament. And bonus number 1. One strain of this virus is named for its discovery in Reston, Virginia. For 10 points each, name this extremely deadly virus that causes a namesake hemorrhagic fever. There was a large outbreak of this virus in West Africa in 2016, spawning fears of it spreading to the United States. That would be the Ebola virus. Ebola and Marburg viruses belong to this general class of viruses named for their U and 6-shaped particles. Those would be filoviruses or filoviridae. Besides primates and bats, these animals of genus Sus are the only other carriers of filoviruses. Eating raw meat from these domesticated animals containing trichinella larvae is the most common cause of trichinosis. Those would be pigs, or pork, or hogs, or swine. According to Tertullian, this is bonus number 2, according to Tertullian, worshippers of this god would have crowns placed on their heads, which they were expected to reject, then assert that this god is my true crown. For 10 points each, name this Greco-Roman god based on a Persian divinity with a similar name, whose cult was popular in the late Roman army. That would be Mithras, or Mithra, or Mitra. Many icons show Mithras alongside figures called Cautes and Cautopates, who hold these items. The goddess Hecate was often shown carrying these items. That item is a torch. The central scene of the cult of Mithras, the Tauroctony, shows the slaying of one of these animals. Zeus took the form of one of these animals to abduct Europa. That would be a bull. James Wood, this is bonus 3, James Wood savaged this author in a 2009 New Yorker article titled Shallow Graves, that opens with a paragraph-long parody of this man's style. For 10 points each, name this postmodern author who wrote the New York trilogy. His recent novel 4321 follows 4 different life trajectories of Archie Ferguson. That would be Auster, Paul Auster. Wood observes the similarity of Auster's characters to this author's recurring character of Nathan Zuckerman. The answer there is Philip Roth. A Roth novel featuring Nathan Zuckerman is titled Exit One of These Figures, which also title the middle entry in Auster's New York trilogy. Henry James' The Turn of the Screw is regarded as a seminal work in a genre centering on these spectral figures. Those figures are ghosts. Bonus number 4. A person of this ethnicity, Alonso de Ercilla, wrote an epic poem about the conquest of Chile. For 10 points each, give this ethnicity of many conquerors and settlers of the New World, some of whom formed the Guipuzcoan Company in Venezuela. That would be Basque. Could have also accepted Vascos or Escaldunac. I would have had to prompt on Spanish. A Basque named Elcano captained the first circumnavigation of the world after this leader of the voyage was killed on Mactan Island. That would be Magellan. Basques fought for control of this city in the so-called Vicuña War of the 1620s. The name of this town, which appears twice in Don Quixote, was a synonym for wealth in the early 17th century. That would be Potosí. Bonus number 5. The operas of Richard Wagner were influenced by several philosophers. For 10 points each, the themes of redemption and loss from Wagner's opera Tristan and Isolde were taken from this book by Arthur Schopenhauer, which argues that music is the more pure art to alleviate human suffering. That would be world as will and idea, or world as will and representation, or Welt als Will und Vorstellung. This philosopher's idea that gods are merely illusions appears in The Essence of Christianity, a book which inspired the politics of the ring cycle. That would be Feuerbach. Wagner's attempts at bringing about a revolution in music were inspired by his conversations with Mikhail Bakunin, who espoused this philosophy that the government should be completely abolished. That would be anarchism. Maurice Merleau-Ponty's essay, I and Mind, opens with a quote from Jacques Gasquet's book titled For This Artist. For 10 points each, name this subject of a Merleau-Ponty essay about his doubt. An 1895 painting of a plaster Cupid by this artist is said to have anticipated the artworks of the following century. That would be Cézanne. Mitzinger and Glez wrote that to understand Cézanne is to foresee this movement in a treatise titled for it. This movement's name was coined when Louis Vaucel mocked houses at L'Estaque. That'd be Cubism. This Dutch artist extended Cubist experimentation with non-Euclidean geometry. Many of his prints show impossible staircases and hyperbolic tiling. That'd be Escher, M.C. Escher. Bonus 7. For 10 points each, answer the following about the position of the sun in the sky. This is the name of the graph formed by plotting the sun's position at the time of day from a fixed point for a year. It is typically shaped like a lemniscate or a figure 8. And that graph is an analemma. One of the reasons why the analemma isn't just a single point is because of this feature of the Earth's orbit. This phenomenon currently measures 23.5 degrees and is responsible for the seasons. That would be Earth's tilt, or obliquity. The points of middle height on an analemma correspond to these events throughout the year. These events occur when the ecliptic intersects with the celestial equator. That would be an equinox, or equinoxes. Bonus number 8. This musical form is sometimes referred to as compound binary form since it also involves moving off a home key to another, then returning. For 10 points each, name this form, which is commonly used in the first movement of symphonies. It consists of an exposition, development, and recapitulation. That would be sonata form, or sonata allegro form. Sonata form was popularized by this classical composer of 106 symphonies, including the clock and surprise ones. That would be Haydn. These pieces use a modified sonata form that flips the order of the themes in the recapitulation. These 4 pieces, thought to be inspired by Adam Mickiewicz's poetry, mostly use a namesake meter of 6/4 or 6/8 time. That would be the Ballads of Frédéric Chopin, but all I needed there was ballad. Bonus number 9. For 10 points each, answer the following about the exploits of the Women's Freedom League. The League agitated for women's right to vote in this country. WFL activists chained themselves to a grill in this country's House of Commons in 1908. And that'd be the UK, United Kingdom, or Great Britain. I would have had to prompt on England. WFL leader Charlotte Despard followed this practice that was common among suffragettes. Sylvester Graham founded an American society named for this practice, also followed at the Battle Creek Sanitarium. That would be vegetarianism, or not eating meat, or eating plants. The WFL promoted this tactic to pressure the government to granting women the right to vote. John Bampton investigated communities in Essex engaged in this type of protest at the start of the Peasants' Revolt. That would be the refusal to pay taxes or refusing to pay the poll tax or equivalents. Bonus number 10. A doctor named Baliardo ignores his family as he comes to believe in the existence of a lunar race in this author's play, The Emperor of the Moon. For 10 points each, name this author whose drama, The Rover, was her most popular play during her lifetime. She served as a spy in Holland before embarking on her writing career. That author's Aphra Behn. Aphra Behn wrote a novella about one of these people named Oroonoko, who was originally a prince before being taken to Suriname. Alex Haley retraced the heritage of one of these people named Kunta Kinte in his novel Roots. That would be a slave or slaves. Aphra Behn is one of the first female writers honored by being buried in Westminster Abbey. However, she was not buried in this reserved location, which features a memorial to Elizabeth Gaskell. That place is called Poets' Corner. Bonus 11. Texas carbons are named because they form this many bonds, because everything is bigger in Texas. For 10 points each, give this number, which is one more than carbon's usual valence, as well as one more than the number of bonds it forms in most molecules. That would be 5. Though Texas carbons are usually the result of chemistry students doing lazy counting, a similar structure forms in the transition state of an SN2 reaction, resulting in a central carbon possessing this molecular geometry. And that molecular geometry is trigonal bipyramidal. The pentavalent carbonium atom would be one of these compounds which donate protons even to H2SO4. A common example of these compounds is made by reacting HF with antimony pentafluoride. And those are superacids. I would have had to prompt on acids. The grave of one member of this family, this is bonus 12, the grave of one member of this family is surrounded by wooden swords, and another member of this family, Yorimoto, won the Battle of Dan no Ura. For 10 points each, name this family of Japanese rulers that defeated the Taira clan in the Genpei War. That'd be the Minamoto clan. Minamoto no Yoritomo was the first Japanese ruler to take this title. These military dictators supplanted the emperor for several centuries following the rise of the Minamoto. That would be the shogun. The Minamoto family established this shogunate, which was later dominated by the Hojo clan and fought off 2 Yuan dynasty invasions of Japan. That would be the Kamakura shogunate. Toss-up bonus 13. Jacinda Ardern spoke at one of this movement's 2017 events, which was the first in the world due to New Zealand's time zone. For 10 points each, name this movement, which organized millions of people of a certain gender to protest the inauguration of Donald Trump. That would be the Women's March. In January 2019, the DNC disaffiliated with the Women's March after its organizers declined to denounce anti-Semitic comments by Louis Farrakhan, the leader of this organization. That would be the Nation of Islam. Though this city's first female mayor, Latoya Cantrell, spoke at its 2018 Women's March, its 2019 march was one of many canceled due to the anti-Semitism controversy. And that would be New Orleans. Bonus 14. Only one of the 4 Muslim matahib, or schools of jurisprudence, considers the witr form of this practice obligatory. For 10 points each, name this action that Muslims must perform 5 times a day according to the pillar of Salat. That would be prayer. The Witr prayer is typically offered during this time period, which falls between the Isha and fire prayers. Throughout Ramadan, iftar is consumed during this period, during which tarawih prayers may also be offered. That would be nighttime or evening, but I could not have accepted or prompted on sundown. Salat must be performed while facing the city of Mecca, a relative direction denoted by this Arabic term. In mosques, this direction is indicated by the mihrab niche in a designated wall. That'd be Qibla. Joan Sutherland, this is bonus 15, Joan Sutherland sang this role in a famous Decca recording opposite Luciano Pavarotti, with Zubin Mehta conducting for 10 points each. Name this soprano role. In her first aria, In Questa Regia, explains the purpose of 3 riddles and culminates in a double high C with the tenor. That would be Turandot, Princess Turandot. Turandot was created by this composer, who wrote about a woman who slits her throat after Pinkerton marries another woman in Madama Butterfly. That would be Puccini, Giacomo Puccini. This other Puccini soprano aria features a diminuendo on a high B in the final word senti morir. A character sings this aria in Act 2 after encountering Marcello in a cafe as she enters with Alcindoro. The answer there is Quando Menvo. I could have also accepted Musetta's Waltz. Bonus number 16. This term names a type of cultural narrative which is called a pourquoi tale in French. For 10 points each, give the two-word term for fantastic origin tales, several of them which a British author told to his daughter Effie, such as How the Whale Got His Throat, title a 1902 book. The answer there, Just So, or Just So stories. In a successor to this classic Kipling novel, the protagonist Mowgli hears the Just So story, How the Tiger Got His Stripes. Mowgli is threatened by Shere Khan in this novel. It'd be The Jungle Book. Another of the Just So stories concerns how a tortoise and one of these other animals became the first armadillos. The Greek poet Archilochus wrote that this animal knows one big thing. That'd be the hedgehog. Bonus 17. For a block and tackle, the ideal type of this quantity equals the number of sections of rope that support the moving block. For 10 points each, name this ratio of output force to input force for a simple machine. That is called mechanical advantage. The ratio of actual to ideal mechanical advantages is given this name. A quantity of this name has a maximum value of 1 minus the ratio of cold to hot reservoir temperatures, according to Carnot's theorem. The answer is efficiency. The ideal mechanical advantage of a frictionless inclined plane is equal to this function of the angle of inclination. That would be the cosecant, or CSC. This concept was studied in a boy named Little Hans, a patient who had a fear of horses. For 10 points each, name this complex which Sigmund Freud theorized results from a boy being sexually attracted to his own mother, instilling in him a desire to kill his father. That is the Oedipus Complex. Freud wrote that the stronger the Oedipus complex is in a person, the stronger this component of his psyche will be. It integrates societal norms into an individual. That'd be the superego. This psychologist made the first sustained attack on Freud's theories of the Oedipus Complex in volumes such as New Ways of Psychoanalysis. She used her theories of neuroses to create a more holistic form of Freud's thought. And that would be Horney, Karen Horney, or Karen Danielson. Bonus number 19. This author wrote that the Allied bombing of Europe was the, quote, first stage of a brave new world, unquote, in his On the Natural History of Destruction. For 10 points each, name this German author whose books like The Rings of Saturn and Austerlitz incorporate black and white photographs into the novel's text. That'd be Sebald, Winfried George Sebald. In Sebald's final novel, a historian named Jacques Austerlitz seeks to find out what happened to his parents who disappeared during this decade. Primo Levi's If This Is a Man describes his incarceration during this calendar decade. That'd be the 1940s. This Dutch writer's diary, The Secret Annex, was published by her father Otto, the only member of her family to survive the Holocaust. That'd be Anne Frank. Bonus 20. Governor Ross Barnett gave an incendiary speech at this institution in the lead-up to a riot that killed a jukebox repairman. For 10 points each, name this institution where U.S. Marshals ran out of tear gas defending its Lyceum building in a 1962 riot that killed a French journalist. That'd be the University of Mississippi. This civil rights activist and leader of the March Against Fear was the first to integrate the University of Mississippi. That'd be James Meredith. This attorney general sent the marshals to protect Meredith. He was assassinated by Sirhan Sirhan after winning the California Democratic primary in 1968. That'd be Robert F. Kennedy, or Bobby Kennedy, or RFK, or Robert Francis Kennedy, or R. Kennedy. And the final bonus number 21. Despite hating French monarchists, this character memorizes a letter intended for the Duke of Angoulême and is entrusted with delivering its contents to him. For 10 points each, name this character the lowly son of a carpenter who aspires to climb French society. He is executed after he tries to kill Madame de Renal during a church mass. That'd be Julien Sorel. I could have accepted either of those names, Julien or Sorel. Julien Sorel is the protagonist of this author's novel, The Red and the Black. That'd be Stendhal, but I could have also accepted Marie-Henri Belly. At the conclusion of The Red and the Black, Mathilde de la Mole reenacts a French legend by kissing this object and later enshrining it. And the answer there would be Julien Sorel's severed head. I only needed the word head. That concludes this video, which contained the PACE 2019 NSC bonus questions for round number 1 of the tournament. Thanks for watching.